Hey everyone, and welcome to the October edition of 3030, a special birthday edition of 3030. As we say, thank you to all of you for allowing us to do this for the last 8 years. So a lot of else happened in the industry, of course, the past 30 days. So let's talk about that as well. What are we going to be covering, right? We're going to be covering what I am seeing and hearing from the September 2023 helpful content update. This one definitely had some teeth, and definitely had a couple of tremors throughout it. A little quiet at first, but we'll get into that. Then, of course, we're going to talk about the two updates that are rolling out right now, which are the October 2023 core update, so another core update right after the August one, and then the October spam update, which is also rolling out, mainly impacting some other languages other than English, but still, a global update nonetheless. Then I am going to carry on with my segment of This Month in SGE. And then, of course, because I simply cannot resist, I am going to call out Gary Isles of Google, at PubCon, saying that links are no longer a top 3 ranking factor. But let's get into it all because we only have 30 minutes. Number one, everybody, I have been doing 3030 for 8 years. I know I say this every time. Thank you so much to everybody who joins me every month. It is extremely humbling. I know how busy everybody is, but I love doing this. This is my favorite part of my job. And the amount of people that join me live every month is truly amazing. Hopefully Seth will let me do this for another 8 years. But really, the reason that I'm able to is because all of you. Thank you so much, so much for joining me every month. I can't really put into words how much I appreciate it. I love all y'all, and I'm going to keep doing what I do and hopefully that everyone continues to enjoy the show. With that, the exciting thing is I got myself a present. So I bought a new microphone. So apparently my old microphone took a dump over the last couple of episodes, and I sounded like I was coming through in a walkie-talkie. So hopefully, now I sound a little bit clearer as I have bought a new microphone, which I am now staring deeply and intently into. But appreciate all the folks that actually gave the feedback that I sounded odd. Because I truly had no idea. When I listened back to it at first, it sounded okay, but a lot of people kind of, emailed me and said, "Hey, Pat, I think there's something up with your mic." So again, thank you to the audience, for giving me a heads up that my mic sounded like crap. So hopefully I sound a little bit better today. But we are new mic territory here. So let me know if you still hear something weird too. So from that perspective, let's get into the important stuff, right? So the September 2023 helpful content update. What am I seeing and hearing? So everybody, in the late afternoon of September 14th, Google unleashed the third iteration of the helpful content update on the world, which then completed on September 28th. So for anyone who might be joining for the first time or doesn't know what the helpful content is about, a reminder here is that this update targets content that is made specifically to rank in search engines and to not help users. So anything that's auto-generated, generated by AI, and people are just copying and pasting, things of that nature. But really, it's trying to weed out content that's just made to rank and not actually trying to bring any value to a customer, right? So what am I seeing and hearing? Really interesting stuff from across the industry, right? Definitely, this was the one we were all waiting for. Definitely had some teeth as it moved across the industry, both positive and negative. Interesting. It was the interesting thing is that it actually started out very slow and very boring, right? So as this was rolling out, not a lot of motion, right at the beginning, but then there were some tremors as it went through, and definitely will show some charts here too. But while most of the tracking tools, saw a little volatility technically during the whole thing, it really did shoot up right towards the end of it, right? So again, like the last helpful content update, it definitely had teeth towards the end of the update. That's when Google really turned the dial up. But from that perspective, a couple of things that are noteworthy here too, right? So this update implemented an improved classifier, right? So what that means is that the signal that Google put into the algorithm, they like what they were getting back, they like what they saw, and then they and so they have improved upon that classifier and have intensified it. So we're going to see a lot more kind of garbage content fall out of the index. But again, a lot of people are going to get caught up in that too. But just something to worth noting. The other thing, which I now understand a lot better, is that previously, I talk a lot about when they were talking about the next iteration of the helpful content update, that it was going to be able to find hidden gems, and like really very specific things within comments in forums and things of that nature. So the interesting thing there is that actually has not become part of the main algorithm yet, which which I thought it would have happened with this one, right? They're definitely testing this in the SGE beta. So anyone that's in the SGE beta, definitely I think we're seeing this in that experience. But for everyone that's just using the traditional, search experience right now, that has not come to pass yet. So Google has not rolled it out. And my guess is the hidden gems thing, quote unquote, will only come with SGE when they officially launch SGE. So from that perspective, keep that in mind, is that, I've talked a lot about that, and I'm excited about it because I can tell you, everybody, I am like 99% sure that we are seeing that in the SGE beta, like with all, like how specific things are and how, and the types of results that we're getting back in the citation links, regardless of that. But that is not part of the traditional experience at the moment. So keep that in mind. And the other thing to keep in mind is that third-party hosted content is not part of this yet either. So this is only looking on your, first party, right? It's only looking on your site. It's not looking elsewhere, like for folks that are syndicating content or things of that nature. So keep that in mind as well, is that there is a whole other kind of layer to this onion that still has not come to pass, or hasn't been peeled yet. Is that the right way to say that? Maybe. I don't know. It's a weird analogy. Anyway, but from that perspective, third-party hosted content is not part of this yet. So keep that in mind as we go along here. But let's get into some charts and some data and see what we're seeing, right? So here's an e-commerce site that, which I do show often, but I showed last time that they were recovering through the August core update. But the September helpful content update, this site really took off. They really benefited from this. And if everyone remembers last time, the reason that they started to go down in March and April, it was because of the link, I believe, definitely the core update, but the link spam update that rolled out around that, the link spam update, they definitely got caught up in that, when that was rolling out. And then, because their link profile, really got cut in half, and again, I know the owner of the site very well, a good friend of mine. He was adamant about buying links, and he kept doing it. Then he stopped, but again, he invested in content many, many years ago, like 5-6 years ago. He started writing really valuable blogs and articles on his site, but the September 2023, helpful content update, this one really, helped him, surge back to, on his way back to where he was. And they saw a 16% increase in top 10 rankings from August to September, which is really, really amazing that those two updates kind of piggybacked in, success for him, right? August, the core update, he started to come out of the hole that he was in. And then September, you're really starting to see the Jets, turn on. So again, this is a perfect example of, number one, not to buy links, but number two, perfect example of why investing in valuable content and not just writing about broad topics. He gets very specific, about his business, which is wetsuits. And he has a lot of hundreds of great articles. And his blog actually drives a ton of revenue for him, not just visits. A ton of revenue is driven through those educational articles as well. So keep that in mind as you're planning your content strategy. And then looking at the same site, just to kind of tie it back to, okay, cool, he saw rankings or whatever. Like, did he actually get traffic? Did he actually make money from this? And I can tell you that he did. The site saw a 7% increase in revenue and a 9% increase in transactions, as a result of this. And, really cool, for him to see this translate into money, right? You can see that the traffic just keeps going up and to the right, but more interestingly, the sessions, the revenue keeps going up to the right, and his transactions kept going up as well. So again, a way that good content can translate into bottom line dollars, right? So keep that in mind as you're doing this. It's, yes, we're trying to get people to the site, but we also want to get, we're all marketers. We have these websites are businesses, and we want to make sure that we're not just getting people to the site. Yes, we want to help people, but ultimately that we're getting them into our funnel, that they're coming in, they're looking at our products or our services or our offerings, and we're getting that lead. We're making more money, and we're connecting with them in a way that they can, that they'll actually come in and buy something. Like everyone, window shoppers are nice, but they don't pay the bills, right? So this is a good way, kind of connect the dots here, that good content can lead to dollars. Also, I have a question here. I noticed that SGE results can be niche. Do we have any idea when this is rolling out everywhere? Really great question. I was actually at L'Oreal's Search Summit last week, and it was a fabulous event. And I got the opportunity to speak there. And we were, a lot of people were talking about this. No one really knows. My guess it's going to be early next year. But the real answer is Google will roll it out when it won't impact their ad model. And I think that's what they're really working on right now, because I'm definitely in a weird testing group right now, which I will actually show you a screenshot of later. But I think it's going to be sometime early next year. Some people have said it might roll out in November. I don't think that's going to happen. I could be wrong. Again, no one really knows. I would be shocked if it rolled out globally in November on on short notice. But my guess is Google's going to give us a pretty good heads up on a date of when this will roll out. But if I had to gather all my opinions together and throw them at a wall, I'd probably say sometime early next year. We should all be prepared for this. So let's keep moving on. So here's a financial aggregator. That's a 5% increase in top 10 rankings. Again, like right here, I know the chart, it's like, oh yeah, that looks like a whatever type increase. But again, that's like 100,000 keywords right there, like going on to page one. So it's a significant amount of an increase for this, for this brand. Here's a major insurance provider that saw a 4% increase in page one visibility. Again, a lot of the commonalities between these sites is very large investment in content. All of them have a ton of, and these are big companies. A lot of them have a ton of educational content around different policies, different, how to choose a credit card and things of that nature. So, and hundreds of articles, stuff that they've been investing in years. And, again, like SGE and all this stuff, it's definitely going to level the playing field, from a, kind of brand size perspective. I believe anyone will have a fair shot in the new world once that does come to pass. And even now, I think any brand has a good shot at ranking for something or getting traffic or being seen for something. But the other thing to remember is that these big brands, they have also been investing in a lot of this, or a lot of them have, right? So from that perspective, keep that in mind as well, is that it's not going to be this reckoning for big brands and all of a sudden they're going to disappear. They have invested heavily in content. As I've talked about many times on the show, like Home Depot, for example, has one of the best DIY hubs like on the internet, for all different types of projects that they've been investing in over a decade. So keep that in mind, that, it's going to level the playing field a little bit, but like a lot of the big players, they invest in this, and a lot of them are waking up right now, because I've been talking to some of them, and they're really starting to invest in this as well. Another question here is SGE the death of the homepage. I barely see homepages in those tests. I have to be honest with you, it's going to be close to it, right? I think homepages will start showing up mainly for brands, but again, like it's going to be the specifics, right? Like, and that's what I've been talking about with everybody, right? At least in the SGE experience, you're going to see the specifics. Maybe in the traditional SERP below it, you'll still see the homepage show up for certain keywords, but again, like Google is getting very good at showing the right page and the right part of a page for the right query. Again, it's all going to come down to specificity. So will your homepage still be the most frequented page on your website? Most likely, yes. Definitely. But at the end of the day, you're going to start to see a lot more of your internal pages. And again, a lot of your article pages, get more interaction, because when you think about it, once SGE rolls out, the concept of the rank is wildly changed, right? Just like the concept of page one was kind of killed when Google rolled out infinite scroll, right? Yes, you're in the top 10 and that's great. And that's where you want to be. But like, you don't click to page two. Page two technically just loads, which is why you're seeing an increase in impressions and clicks in Google Search Console for things that are, like on average position in the 20s and 30s and even 40s. You're seeing more and more of your site getting visibility. And, page one, like the concept of page one has really changed. And I think the concept of what a rank is will also change when SGE goes. But I don't think it's the death of the homepage, but it's definitely going to be a larger distribution across your site, depending on how good your content is. Another one, I've heard others say link building could be a factor in the ranking appearing in AI search. Do you think this has any truth to it, or is link building on the way out? Link building's been on the way out for years, and I've been very public about that. At the end of the day, there's nothing like links are not bad. Like, they're still very important. Again, like I have a slide in here later that goes through, they're not one of the top 3 ranking factors anymore. They haven't been for a very long time. They're a part of the pie, right? That pie used to have many fewer slices than it does today. And links were a big chunk of that pie, back in the day. But now, you really don't have to, like, if you're spending money on buying links, I heed my warning. Like I just showed you, like, this happens to site. He was buying links. That is why this happened. That's why this decline happened. He's just lucky that he invested in content and was able to bounce back in a relatively short period of time. But when you look at it, it's still 7 months of downtime, But from that perspective, just be careful, right? Like, if you need a really good, like, if you feel like you're at number 3 and you really want to try to get to number 1, that last mile effort, maybe you should go and look to acquire a link from somewhere. But if you are spending money on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, you're doing it wrong. There's so many better ways that you can spend your time and money, because if you create great content and you're working with your marketing team, you will build great links naturally. I have not built a link in 15 years, and I have never had trouble getting a site to rank. So from that perspective, just be careful, right? Like link building, it's on its way out, and it's against Google's guidelines, and they're getting better at figuring out the sites that exist just to pass link equity. So be very, very careful with if you're building links. I'm not telling you to do it or not do it. That's your call. I would advise you not to. But again, just make sure that if you are going to go out and acquire a link, make sure it's for a good reason and you're not doing it on a regular, consistent basis. It should be a last mile thing to get certain keywords up to a certain place. But again, once SGE launches, does that matter anymore, right? Will links have anything to do with the SGE experience? No one really knows the answer to that yet, unfortunately. Another one, isn't internal link building more relevant? Internal linking is very important. Yeah, I would argue it's more important than external links, because it's all about how that link equity flows throughout your site and kind of spreads throughout the site. So I would that's a very good point. I would say that paying attention to your internal linking scheme is probably more important than trying to go out and buy external links. But again, from that perspective, I'm not discounting people who do that. That's not what this is. It's more just be very careful, because Google's getting very good at this. And again, if you want your site to look like this, which I know no one does, go out and buy links on a regular basis, because that's what will happen. Moving on, here's a publisher that saw a 3% decrease in the top 10 rankings from August to September. On average, the vertical that did the worst through this update were publishers, by far. Everyone else, real estate, e-commerce, financial, like I just showed you, insurance, healthcare, most people were up. But I did see a trend in publishers that were down. And again, nothing catastrophic, but definitely just a little bit like 3 to 5% down across the board over the 40 or 50 publishers that I looked at. So a little bit interesting there. I also talked to a bunch of publishers that said that their Discover traffic seemed to be going down as the helpful content update rolled out. So from that perspective, just something to consider if you are in publishing. There was kind of a trend across the board. Glenn Gabe, as everybody knows, I follow Glenn Gabe, and he always has great graphs. Here's a scary one. So this was something that they started this site started to surge heading into July, right? So it started to come up, and then in the August core update definitely surged through that. And then it started to drop at the end of the core update, which is super interesting. And then with the September with the helpful content update, this site is in a bad spot. Man, I feel for the for the SEO team or the SEO person who is working on this site, because that's got to be heartbreaking where you see such a surge and then it comes down. But again, like this is one of those things. This is a news publisher. Again, this is another example of a news publisher that had kind of a weird experience. Again, still technically up from where it was in June, but definitely on its way down after the helpful content. So something in the core update in August definitely agreed with this publisher. And again, with publishers in general, we didn't see anything necessarily bad happen, through the core update. But then the helpful content update in September definitely seemed like something like didn't agree with, or they didn't like what they were getting back for publishers, and they saw it start to decline. So keep that in mind. Again, if you're a publisher and you're seeing the same thing, would love to get any details on what you are seeing more specifically. But at the end of the day, that's what I've been seeing in our data. And again, just confirming it here, that Glenn gave, seeing the same thing. And then everyone, what happened? That's right. Google rolled out 2 more updates. So once the helpful content update finished around September 28th, they gave us a whole 6 days, before they started to roll out the October 2023 spam update on the 4th of October, and then the October 2023 core update on the 5th. So on October 5th, 4th and 5th, we got 2 major updates that started to roll out. And basically what I'm seeing and hearing right now is these are, we're probably just about at the end of these now. Volatility has been up and down. It's not as crazy sustained as we saw like starting June 14th through the August core update. Again, weird thing about the helpful content update, that was kind of the end of that historic sustained amount of volatility. So that's been really interesting. But right now, as you can see, mostly, kind of fluctuating like a normal update. You see, the tremors of when things kind of, go up and down. But the big fluctuation that everyone is pretty much talking about, for whichever one this is, probably a combination of both of them, was on October 10th. October 10th, was when the biggest kind of, happened for everybody. And there's, I don't like showing too many charts or anything before like things finish, because things can go up, they can go down. And, I don't want to give context on something that I don't fully understand yet. But for the most part, I would pay attention to October 10th. And if you saw anything on October 10th that looked a little bit wonky, because that seemed to be when the biggest push for this update for those updates happen. Right now, it's still kind of mellow. There's some tremors here and there, but again, they have not announced that they're complete yet. But we have to be, the October 4th, 5th. We got to be right at the end of these. So I'm guessing either we're going to hear later today or tomorrow that these updates are done. If not by latest this weekend, that these are done. But again, a little bit of an up down, but the biggest surge was on October 10th. So what are these 2 targeting, right? So core algorithm updates, again, just for anyone who may not know. It completed today. Thank you for confirming it completed today. The core update. So that means that the spam update will probably finish soon too. Even though it's interesting because the spam update, rolled out first. So again, confirmed by the audience. Thank you, everybody. The October core completed today. So we'll have an analysis on that next month. So just for anyone who may be joining for the first time, or, it's the first time you're hearing what a core algorithm update is. So basically, these updates target all types of content and impact sites globally. What you want to do here is that you want to pay attention to your site as a whole, right? If you're seeing declines, you'll look for commonalities, between the pages that are seeing declines. But again, overall, if you were impacted, you're doing something wrong, and don't ignore it, right? Like that is the advice from Google. Like if you are seeing something, if you're impacted, something is wrong with what you're doing, and you have to figure out what that is. And if you need help doing that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to chat through it, or reach out to a colleague. But from the most part, something's probably not right with the way that you're approaching things. The spam update, this targets scraped, hacked, auto-generated, and cloaking spam. But this was mainly focused on content that was written in Turkish, Vietnamese, Indonesian, Hindi, Chinese, and some other languages. English sites will also be impacted. That was confirmed by John Mueller, but not as much as the sites languages above. So just keep that in mind as you're going along. How are we doing on time? 5 minutes. You got this, Pat. So let's move on to this month in SGE. So one thing that I saw that I wanted to bring up, I am part of a very interesting test group at the moment. So right now, what are we looking at? We're looking at what you would typically expect, right? You would see that the paid ads are above the SGE, the generative box, which is what I have largely been seeing the entire time that I've been using, the SGE beta. One thing that I got caught up in the other day was that the SGE box actually started to show up above paid ads. So this was the test that I saw. I didn't see anyone else mention anything else major kind of roll out, or Google didn't announce that anything was staying or going away, like the citation links last month. But this was one testing group that I was caught up in, where the paid ads actually were showing up below the SGE box, which is interesting because when you think about it, if you click this show more, that pushes all those paid ads down towards the bottom, below the fold, which would be interesting for Google, right? But again, I think what we're going to start seeing here is, and I've been predicting this for years, that Google is going to start interdispersing paid ads and organic results. And I think SGE is going to be the first foray into that, because I can't fathom that they would move ads down like this and then give people the ability to push them off the page and push them below the fold. So just something to consider, that I think that Google's going to be testing a lot with paid search with SGE. And I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised. I know that ads are going to start showing up in there eventually, like they do everywhere. But just keep that in mind, that Google is testing some different ways to use paid ads. I was actually on mobile the other day Googling something, and I got a paid ad in the middle of the SERP. There was no paid ads at top. I scrolled down, I was 3 or 4 results in, and then that 5th result or so was a paid ad, and then it was normal organic ads again. So they are definitely testing interdispersing paid ads with organic ads. So just keep that in mind moving forward, because that could really disrupt paid campaigns in the way that those are done, but also could level the playing field between paid and organic as well. So, it'll be interesting to see what they're doing, but they're definitely testing some ideas right now. Again, so a couple of minutes left. Let's get through the last thing. So the last thing is at PubCon Austin, a couple of weeks ago, on September 21st, in Austin, Gary Iles, said something that a lot of people started to tweet out about, was like, links are not a top 3 ranking signal and haven't been for some time. So to kind of answer that question again with something that Google said, right? Jennifer Slegg here said, one big takeaway from my AMA with Gary is that links are no longer a top 3 factors, right? And, he also then said that content is the top ranking factor. Everybody, this is not news. Everybody knows this. This is not news. But at the same time, it's always good to hear Google kind of confirm this. And again, yes, do I talk about this a lot? I talk about it a lot because I'm passionate about it. And I know that if people do it wrong, they can really hurt their sites. But at the end of the day, links are a piece of the pie, but they are not something that should be abused and not something that should be bought on a regular basis. Can they help? Of course they can. But at the end of the day, there are so many more better things you can do with your time and money than go out and give them to a link building company, right? Again, acquiring links, there's a time and place for it. I'm not knocking those folks, not knocking those businesses. But at the end of the day, if you're doing marketing in the right way, you will build those links naturally. With good partnerships, you will build those links naturally. And Google has gotten so good at finding these sites that are only made to pass link equity that you're really playing with a very large fire here. And then they're ultimately going to catch you. But then again, as I always say, don't buy links, kids. They're bad for your health. And with that, we talked a lot about algorithms today, and I'm doing office hours on Tuesday, the 24th, like I always do at 11 a.m. Eastern. Please join me if you can. Love having the live questions. But with that, everybody, like I said before, we talked a lot about algorithms today, but the only algorithm that matters is the heart, mind, and soul of your customer. If you create great content that they like and love, they will come back time and time again and be customer for life. Everybody, once again, thank you so much for 8 amazing years of 30/30. This is my favorite part of my job, and I would not be able to do it without you. I really appreciate all of you spending 30 minutes of your very valuable time with me. And with that, I will see you next month. Thanks, everyone.